Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name's Anthony and in today's video, we're going to talk about something that's really interesting and that not a lot of designers know. So if you know this information, it makes you a much better designer. Now what we're going to talk about is the fashion triangle. Oh my god. If you don't know what the fashion triangle is, it's basically a layered version of a triangle to sort of tell you as a designer what you need to be concentrating on and how you should be designing. But before we get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help my channel to grow, especially that like button. You have no idea how much it helps promote my video and boost it with the YouTube's algorithm. Please also leave a comment because I like to chat to you guys and get to know you a little bit better and build this fashion community up. Alright, okay, so let's get into it. What is the fashion triangle? Why is it important? And how can you use it to become a better fashion designer? Well, the fashion triangle is basically a layered version of a triangle that tells you what is commercial fashion, mid-store fashion, and top store elevated fashion. And it's really important because as a designer, you need to know where you need to be spending the majority of your time when you're designing. Now, what do these different layers mean? Well, the bottom layer is basically commercial fashion. Now, this is the area that is going to make the company that you're working for or your company the most amount of money. Now, commercial fashion is on the bottom of the triangle because it should make up the majority of your range. Now, commercial fashion can be anything as long as it is a high seller, an easy colour, and a more easy garment to wear and sell. Now, commercial fashion is really important because it is basically the bread and butter of fashion, design, and actually styling and clothing. So you want to have the majority of your range as commercial fashion. When you're coming to stores and grading and putting it into a range, the bottom of the triangle is basically the stuff that is the easiest thing to sell and the easiest colorways, but it is not necessarily the easiest thing to design because it's your stuff that sells on quite well and you'll need to make updates and you'll need to make changes, but changed in a way that doesn't change the whole garment too much, yet it is different than the last season, if that makes sense. And as a designer, that is kind of our bread and butter, and that is what you're going to be doing mainly in your job, is designing and redesigning and updating styles that have previously sold well. And this is our commercial fashion at the bottom of the triangle. Now, when it comes to range building and putting it in stores, that basically means it's going to go to all stores and it's basically the ones that are the easiest and the easiest things to sell. How many times can I say that? But yes, it is the commercial fashion and it is it's the easiest thing to sell. Now let's move on to the middle section of the triangle. Now this is still commercial fashion, however it's usually slightly elevated and it usually has interesting colours. So these are the styles that aren't going to sell as well. You wouldn't buy as much volume in these styles because they're just not going to sell. However, there is a customer out there and they are going to want to buy into this product. Now this can be your interesting fabrications, it can be your interesting colours, it can actually be your commercial styles but just done in a slightly different way. It can be done with different fabrications and it just makes the collection look more elevated. Now, as I say, as this is the middle store, this would be your mid-store options. So that basically means that if you've got 1,000 stores, that's where all your commercial fashion goes. But only probably like 400 of them stores would be classed as mid-store options. So you would have to make sure that you're designing for that customer. And it's the slightly elevated one and it's the stores with slightly more space as well. Now, I've gone through a few different ways of sort of designing a collection and how to design a collection. If you want to go and see a video about how to design clothes, click the link here and I go through a whole process on how to design. But specifically when you're designing the mid-store options, you need to be mindful that it still needs to be commercial, yet it still needs to be slightly more elevated than the commercial stuff that is going to sell all store. It's kind of a bit of a minefield because you want it to be elevated and you want it to sort of look fresh and new and interesting, yet you still also want the commercial value that you're doing for your all-store offering. Now let's talk about the top of the triangle. Let's talk about the most interesting pieces and what that actually means. So if you are designing the top of the triangle, that basically means that you are now designing the more interesting stuff to go in top store, which basically means that the top stores are the ones with the most space and probably the most prestige when it comes to your company or the company that you're designing for. Now in this store, there will be loads of different options. You'll have everything from your commercial areas. You'll also have it from your mid-store areas as well. And you'll also have the top store. So this store will be jam-packed full of everything that you've designed from the bottom of the triangle to the top. And basically, the top of the triangle is the most interesting stuff out there. So this is where you'll do all your wacky colours. This is where you'll do all your crazy designs. This is where you'll do your more avant-garde stuff. And this is where you'll also do your trials. Now, trials are really important. Trials basically means that you design something that you think could be commercial or you think could be all store, so you trial it in top store to make sure it sells well. If it sells well at top store, then it gets promoted to mid-store, and if it sells well at mid-store, it also gets promoted to commercial. And that's kind of like the waterfall effect when it comes to design. So it's a good way of hedging your bets and making sure that you are designing the correct product for your customers. You always want to be designing new products and you always want to be designing new things, but it's difficult to know what the winners are. It's difficult to know what are going to be the big sellers when it comes to your collection. Now, as I said, a fashion triangle is really important, and it's not something a lot of designers design to. This is something that I learned when I was in fast fashion, and it's something that I've carried through with me when I'm designing for other brands and when I'm designing for other clients. Now, keeping it in mind basically means that I'm covering all my bases, and it basically makes me more knowledgeable of the design process and how you're going to range build and how you're going to make sure the stuff that you've got in store is going to sell well. And if you talk about it in terms of top of the triangle, top store, mid store, all store, it really does make you look more knowledgeable, and it really makes you look a bit more informed, and it makes you look like a more well-rounded designer when you come to presentations. Going forward, I would suggest you start designing in this way. So as you're designing, you think, okay, this shape is really nice and I really like it. However, if I do it in this colour, because it's a bit brighter, this definitely can only go to top store. But if I do it in this more muted tone, then maybe that could be mid store. But if I do it in a black, that's definitely all store. And I guess as you go through and you've worked for different companies and you know what their version of top, mid and all store are, then it becomes a lot easier to sort of recognise them signs and recognise what you need to design to make sure that you're getting the correct things in store for the customers. But overall, that's everything that I've got to say on the design triangle. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to click that beautiful red subscribe button down below. Please also check out my Etsy shop where you can buy cards and vectors to help support you in your everyday design life, and it really helps support this channel. Otherwise, I'll see you here every Monday and Thursday with a brand new video. Alright, okay, thanks for watching. Alright, bye. Tra tra tra. Bye.